Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening, I'm Joe Root, and this is Lighting the Void. It is Tuesday night, and the moon is nice and super full here in the natural state on this February the 19th on into the 20th, and we are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. The network is thefringe.fm, and our website for this show is lightingthevoid.com. Please give us a follow on social media, Facebook and Twitter, YouTube if you can. Just search Lighting the Void. But tonight we're going to be talking about the Ponte CE5, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, actually speaking to aliens, man. This is the show of shows, right? So if you're here tonight, you're going to love it. We're here with Sue Walker and Reverend White Otter, and this is a show that I've actually got to produce, but I haven't got to do. And now it's my time. It's your time here on Lighting the Void. So don't go anywhere. Tonight's going to be really cool. And when we open the phone lines up, that call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. When we open the lines up, there's actually a queue system in there, so just make sure you turn your radio down and be patient, and we'll get to you if you call in. Also, you can text into the show at 501-777-5631. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter on the website. That one, the new one, is about to come out, so you get all your free goodies and stuff and an inside look to the studio. And if you want to support us, you can. There is a place to donate. You can also use the Amazon portal. And you can grab a t-shirt, which, by the way, I've got a few pictures of Crow, Janet, Barbara, and a couple of other people that have their t-shirts. And, man, you guys are looking good in those new Lighting the Void t-shirts, I got to tell you. And I'm probably going to share them. So keep in mind, if you send me a picture of yourself with a t-shirt on it, I'm probably, going to let the ego fly and show everybody your smiling face. So... but that doesn't mean don't send me your pictures. Please do, because I want to see them. If you don't want me to show them, just tell me, and I won't. I promise. But the real thing we're going to talk about tonight is, this is epic, right? Are aliens among us right now? Okay? If they are, where do they reside? How can we communicate with them? For the first time here on Lighting the Void, Sue Walker and Reverend White Otter will be joining us to discuss a bit about the Ponte, a group of extraterrestrials from Zeta Reticuli. Now, from a skeptical point of view, this also has to be very fascinating, because what we have here is not just a story, but a guidebook. Eyewitness testimonies of many people, including Pyramid to Mars Kevin Estrella and more, who attest to the truth of these encounters and fascinating experiences. Now, the website you can check out right now if you're listening is officialfirstcontact.com. You can find a free primer download to prep yourself for this experience, as well as reviews and even more evidence of this phenomena. The commander of these beings' name is, and they may have to correct me on this when we bring him on, is Tilcum. And he has stated that they have come here to teach us telepathy, archaeoplanetography, and also prepare us for our first contact with him. Now, Sue and the Reverend, they keep frequent contact with him, and so we may ask a few questions tonight. It's very important to keep an open mind on the subject. In fact, isn't this what you've always wanted and waited for? So, let's just do this, and hopefully our power won't go out like it did last night, even though the storms are still coming. So I assure you, if the stream goes down for any reason, I will be winding the gears and the barbed wire and everything to get it back up. I promise you. But let's go ahead and bring him on. Sue Walker is a clairvoyant and medical intuitive for more than 27 years. She has been featured on both national and international television. She is a lifelong experiencer, and for the past 5 years has been translating for a group of extraterrestrials from Zeta Reticuli 2 who operate out of a base beneath the Sandia Mountains on the eastern edge of Albuquerque. Sue assisted in the first known collaboration with the Ponte on a basic training manual, the Telepathy 101 Primer, which is on their website. Another publication she co-authored, the ET Pajama Party book, or Inviting ET, How to Host a Real CE5 Event, has recently been published, along with her spouse, Reverend White Otter, as with us as well. And Reverend White Otter has traveled the shaman's path for more than 40 years and has been involved with teaching energy work for most of that time. And he is a true Renaissance man. He holds a master's in philosophy and a degree in the culinary arts, and has been an 18th century historic reenactor as well as a professional nurseryman. And thank you guys so much for coming on this show. This has been long awaited for me, so I appreciate you guys coming on Lighting the Void.
We're happy to do that, Joe. Thanks for inviting us, and hello from New Mexico.
You know, I just had, speaking of that, I just had a flash of lightning and everything dipped on me and came back. So let's all put our hands together and hold steady here. You know,
we may have to ask our friends for a little help.
Yeah, the book that I got. See, this is what I like about this whole thing. When it comes to close encounters, talking to aliens, for the longest time, we've talked about it. Yeah, we've heard people's stories and stuff. But you guys have released this book, which I own, Inviting ET, that I got off Amazon. That's a guidebook. So even for the skeptic, right? Even for the person that says, you know, this is just too good to be true. Talking to aliens, using telepathy, it's very hard for me to believe. You guys can easily say, well, here's a manual. Try it, right? See what happens.
Right.
Exactly.
That's right. Try it for yourself. Have your own experience. Follow the instructions that our extraterrestrial friends, the Ponte, gave us. They dictated the Telepathy 101 primer so that we would know how to practice and improve our telepathic understanding the fastest and easiest way they could instruct us. We found that putting that onto out to the public and available as a free download, and now it's in at least 11 languages and moving forward with more. But if you download it and follow the instructions, what we found in the past year, because it went out live December, the summer solstice, or this winter solstice, a year ago.
21st of December, a year ago.
And so it's been out for, 13, 14 months?
Yeah.
In that time, are those people around the world who downloaded the primer and started their own practice and training of telepathy also followed this is how you contact our extraterrestrial friends, and followed the protocol that they suggested and received visits of their own. Took about 100 days-ish, more or less. Some people received visits sooner than that. Some people are still waiting. But on average, of the dozens of people who have contacted us back now, saying, I did what you said, I did what Tani, our extraterrestrial Ponte friend who dictated the primer, instructed, and I got results. Some people are getting regular visits and starting their own dialogues with our extraterrestrial Ponte friends now. And many of them are taking photographs of things in their home, swirls and landing sites in their backyard, dust and marks and things and fingerprints that they find, videos of craft over their home over and over and over, and all of the voluntary submitted evidence of those people who have invited our Ponte friends is available for the public to see on the evidence page of Official First Contact. This phenomena of doing the followed protocol that our friends, our extraterrestrial friends, have suggested, led to so many common questions that we talked to them again and said, we need to clarify some other things. Here are the common questions we're getting. And together, we put together the information that you find in the book that you've got, Joe, the Inviting ET book, How to Host Your Own CE5 Event. And we talk about the ins and outs of everything from missing time and what do you do if it happens, to what can you expect after a visit, to what do you do if a portal opens up 10 feet in front of you and somebody walks through it. So we cover the common fears, the commonly asked questions, and we let the experiencers and contactees tell in their own words their experiences within the book as well. So you get a variety of contact interaction information, not just from Otter and I. And so if your listeners or you want to have your own experience, there is a guidebook and it works. And it's working worldwide.
The power of telepathy is something I've always wondered about. And yesterday, an article was released by some scientists that discovered that, which I thought was really cool, and Eric and I had a discussion on this for a few hours, that when you take brain tissue, they just figured this out, and you cut it in half and you separate the pieces of meat, which is kind of really gross, but still the brain, the neurons jump just like you would on a wireless router. They're just now figuring this out, which just says something totally different about what's going on in our minds and what this, I mean, we already had this discussion. I think the brain is really just a big mesh biological antenna. And now, scientists are like, oh, what is this? And I think they're just, starting to realize that this is not like a hard drive like they always thought it was.
Right.
Actually,
there's a lot to that in the fact that it really, telepathy revolves around the hippocampus in our brain, and two little oysters on the front of it, the amygdala, which is what picks up and senses the vibrations and of the telepathic message.
Well, helps you interpret the emotional carrier wave, I guess would be the best way to say it. That's what the amygdala are best at. When you think about real telepathy versus a transmission in an implant to somebody, the difference is the emotional carrier wave. You can put a chip into anybody and send a signal. But in order to have true telepathy, there is an emotional component to it that's not only words like you're hearing now on the radio, not only sentences and voices in your head, but images and the emotions connected with them, and sometimes a history sense, or a direction, or a time sense, or a length of time sense, or a number of people involved sense. Telepathic contact is downloads of chunks of information, not just hearing words in your head.
Gotcha. So that's when people say they have downloads, that's what they're usually talking about.
That's what, it's the easiest, best analogy that we can come up with, because it's such a chunk of information simultaneously, like a computer download is.
Wow. Something that, I've told the audience, I was like, look, I'm going to do this. I got this book. I'm going to do this and figure this out and let you guys know what happened. Well, as I was producing shows like John's show and Suzanne's show, and I heard a lot of these discussions and people coming on like Kevin and others calling in, talking about their experiences, you know, I got to thinking maybe it's not a good idea to do this on my own. And, you know, I wasn't trying to scare myself, but even in the beginning of your book, you know, you talk about prepping yourself emotionally and getting yourself ready for something because it's going to be life-changing. So I kind of held back, and I was like, maybe I should wait and do this with others so I'm not by myself. What do you guys think about that?
Well, all right. I guess I would say a couple of things. First of all, if you get a group of like-minded folks together, you help support each other. And that's part of why we say, or we tell people how to help each other handle your fears and cope with new situations in the Inviting ET book, because you're putting yourself consciously, proactively into a situation where admittedly you understand that you are facing the possibility that somebody else is going to take you for a ride.
Right.
That you will have missing time. That you may not remember everything until later. And that is a scary thing for folks because it means you're voluntarily giving up control of your life to somebody you don't know who's not from here. And that takes some gumption. And it takes some readiness. And it takes some, I got to trust the people that have done this before and trust their experience in order to go, you know what, I think I might be willing to try this on my own. So group in a situation like you're talking about, I think I would probably, if you have not had your own personal UFO or ET CE5 type encounters before. CE3, CE4, CE5. CE3, just so your listeners know, is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like the movie title, where you witness a being associated with a UFO. That being can be a human-type being. It can look not like us. It can be a robot or an android or mechanical. Any kind of being falls into that category of CE3. CE4 is where something really trippy happens, where you have a hallucinatory or dreamlike event, or somebody that you haven't talked to from high school from years back suddenly shows up, and then they morph into an extraterrestrial. Okay, all of that would fall under a something trippy happened CE4 category. A CE5, by definition, is voluntary dialogue back and forth with somebody not from Earth.
Gotcha.
Or from another dimension, possibly. I guess you could throw that into the mix too. But CE5 is voluntary back and forth dialogue on both parties' parts. And so that's what you're seeking, is getting to the place where you can communicate back and forth and remember it. And our Ponte friends have made the instructions on how to do that fairly easy.
Is there a reason, is the whole reason why they just don't come out in physical form always, is it because, you know, we think we want that, right? But maybe we can't handle it emotionally, you know? Maybe, in other words, what's the reason why the telepathy and the other things, instead of just, you know, making an appearance?
I think in general, it has to do with your becoming comfortable with contact with them and visual images that you will get of them over time, to the point that they're familiar. that lost cousin of yours you haven't seen for 30 years. You're comfortable with them, and they're comfortable with you.
Mm-hmm.
They have a protocol that they have to follow every time they leave the Sandia Mountain Information Station. And the protocol is very simple, in this order: cause no fear, do no harm, leave no trace. That's their mission protocol for every single member of their staff that goes out to visit anyone. Part of the leave no trace also overlaps with what they tell us is a signed agreement that ends in 2021 of we will not provide video evidence, photographic evidence, technological evidence, etc., etc. Okay. The gray area is no one at the time of the agreement said anything about talking or sharing things on social media, because at the time of the agreement, social media didn't exist. And so the Ponte found a little bit of a workaround. If you go to the official firstcontact.com website, you can see what our friends look like. They requested for us to sketch them because that too fell into the gray area of it is not forbidden for those that we have contact with to draw us. Did you know that, Sue? And I went, no, I didn't know that. And so,
well, they've also been, the boys have been given license to photobomb.
Oh, well, I don't know about license to photobomb. What we did here, and this is going to sound a little strange and interesting, two of the members of Commander Tilcom's staff, and you did pronounce all of those words and all of those names very correctly. You did a very nice job. But two of the members of Commander Tilcom's staff, Radar and Grayson, or Radar and Depp, I don't remember, it was Radar and one of the boys, went to him and said, Tilcom, there's this thing that they have called dash cams now, where they have cameras that are moving constantly in the front of their vehicles, everywhere all the time. Do you expect us to avoid all of those too? And they argued with him that that was unreasonable. And he had to acquiesce and say, just don't buzz down the main interstates, huh? And so can they avoid all cameras all the time? No, they don't. But Otter was talking about photobombing, and what our friends have said is that
if you see a chicken, it's radar.
There are some members of the staff that like to push the edge of what Commander Tilcom has told them they can do and what they can't do. And Radar is one of those. And so if he can find a workaround in a gray area where he can bend the rules a little bit, he does. It's his personality type. We've gotten to know a number of these guys by their personalities, and Radar is one of the youngest members of the Ponte staff, and the one that was assigned to study our media in order to inform Tilcom of kind of the finger on the pulse of the public knowledge about it.
Cultural background.
Yeah,
study.
and the cultural background. What's being presented via Hollywood and television and social media and documentaries. And so if it was UFO or ET related, he had to write a report on it and give that to Tilcom and keep up with things. And so he became a little bit more hip or understanding of the culture than
really
the rest
cool.
of the crew because of that. And it shows.
In the 60s right now.
That's really cool. Well, listen, I think it's a good idea to let the phones kind of stay open if some people want to call in and ask a question or give their give their testimony to this. But yeah, we're at the bottom of the hour already, guys. We're here with Sue Walker and Reverend White Otter. We're going to be talking more about the Ponte and the CE5 experience. Also, some more about their book when we come back right after these important messages. Don't go anywhere.
And remember, if you'd like to learn one of life's most valuable secrets, just send $20 to The Announcer in care of this station. And by return mail, you'll receive your very own copy of the exciting 1.5-page book entitled Why You Should Never Send Some Guy $20 Just Because He Asks You to over the radio.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com. and use promo code POWERSAVE.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Do you ever wonder why there's so much show in politics? Do you ever wonder why America's not getting fixed? Ever wonder why our media is not reporting the news? They report only their biased opinion. Are you tired of feeling like a controlled rat? Do you wonder what's next? If you're looking for answers, join me, Ronnie McMullen, for my new show, Deep Waters Radio. That's Deep Waters Radio. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM. See you then.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on the Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. You can also text into the show at 501-777-5631, or you can email the show at contact@lightingthevoid.com. Tonight we're talking to Sue Walker and the Reverend White Otter. We're talking about the Ponte and the CE5 experience, and we already have a caller on the line that wants to speak with us, Sue and Reverend White Otter. His name is Juan. Thanks for calling, Juan. What have you got to share with us?
Well, I wanted to say hello to Sue and Otter. It's been really great hearing them on the radio. I've been involved with the Twitter account since just about the beginning, and it's a different sort of story, and I really like it.
It is a different sort of story, and I think if I understand, Juan, you and Radar seem to hit it off from the very beginning because you shared a lot of humor in common.
Well, I think I got Radar in trouble as much as Radar got me in trouble, to tell you the truth.
Explain to the listeners your experience on Twitter interacting with the crew in real time and what that was like for you at the beginning and how you went from, I don't know if this is real, to this is really real. Holy buckets.
Yeah,
how did that progression go for you?
I observe things pretty well. And the personalities of the different people, Telcom, Tinny, Gerudy, Radar, all of them, they all seem to have the same personality that doesn't change. It's just very real, and when they get you on a certain level, and a lot of people don't, it sets off those alarm bells like this is something that's different. And I'm very interested in things that are not just getting echoed by everyone else that talks about the extraterrestrial community. So that's what I latched on to.
And then what took it from, I'm not sure about this, to very real in your personal life then?
Various times of the actual telepathy, not very often, but the voices come through. One of the things that has happened is they took an interest in my son, and he's autistic, and I've noticed a change in my son's personality since they took a bigger interest in his personality.
Really? What kinds of changes are you talking about? And for your listeners, your son is an adult, not a child.
Correct. He's a 23-year-old adult. He was a little bit more immature or childish with his demeanor, but when they were showing more interest in him, he has shown a maturity level that has quickened in pace with how he was progressing normally in his autistic adult life.
Huh.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
so,
he's really enjoying it, and we're enjoying it.
Is he aware that he is dialoguing with extraterrestrials or interacting with them?
I think he is, but he's not ready to come to those terms. So he's not sure, although he's sure.
Got it.
Well, as much as he likes to draw, I encourage him to draw what he sees.
Is that what happens? Is it like things happen to you that never have happened before, and you don't want to, maybe you don't want to accept that you're being communicated with? Does that happen a lot like that?
It does. And it. Go ahead, Juan.
I was going to say that I welcome it and I look for it. So when it's around, I'm generally able to tell. More of a feeling than the actual gift of voice telepathy, but it's all about the feelings.
Exactly. That is telepathy.
I would agree with that. For some people, they're expecting that voice in their head like you hear on the radio. And when instead they get a wave of emotion that contains images that come out of the blue, they don't always associate it with CE5 contact. They just go, where did that come from? That was weird. And that stops there.
I think a lot of people expect it to sound like a radio playing in the head right off the bat, but I think emotion is a lot of different things, and if you feel big emotions and you have that empathy, that's just as valid as listening to the clear sound of Telcom in your ear or Radar in your ear.
It helps if you have visuals, because the vast majority of us trust our eyes more than our other senses.
Right. And my experience too, Sue and Juan and Reverend, is when in my life, I don't know about y'all's life, but in my life, paranormal activity isn't frequent. Real paranormal activity is very few and far between, even when it comes to things like astral travel and stuff. And I've been around people, and this is no offense to anybody, but it's true. I've been around people that just kind of point at everything and think it's all paranormal and some conspiracy, right? And so either two things are happening there. Either we have I'm having a hard time accepting that all of these things are paranormal activity and it's weird, or maybe we need to figure out what's psychosomatic and what's really going on, so we can better discern when it's really happening, if that makes any sense.
I will agree with that, and that's why we insist on that discernment. What were you going to say, Juan?
No. I think it takes people a long time to get through what that discernment actually feels like, and they're not going to just be able to do it right off the bat, most of them.
That's why that's why we, say practice, 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 and then practice some more. We didn't develop our abilities to interact with socially with the dimensional world without years of practice and attempted communication, and with successes and failures both.
And it's like with everything, it's just the same way.
Yeah.
We say that telepathy is a skill like any other skill you learn. You know that if you wanted to, say, learn to play the piano, you would have to find a teacher, and that teacher would probably give you a workbook and say, go home and practice 30 minutes a day and then come back in a week and you'll get lesson 2. And you would think that that was normal because it's a new skill that you're learning. When you go to school and the teacher gives you homework, they're giving you time to practice. And what you're really doing is creating new neural pathways in your brain. That's what learning is. And that takes time and repetition. But it works if you stick to it.
I would agree with that.
Sometimes I wonder, and maybe you guys can answer this for me, is if the beings that are, maybe they're watching us, and we can talk about that too, if they've helped us evolve mentally, because it's kind of fascinating for me just now that scientists, with all the experiments they've done on the human brain, right, that they're just now figuring out that these things are moving wirelessly. So it's either maybe it just hasn't been there and now we've developed it, or, you know what I'm saying? Are we evolving? Are they helping us evolve into this? Or did we always have these capabilities?
A little of both.
The wiring was there.
Yeah, we already have the hardware. We have the brain chemistry. We have the brain physiology. We have the structure to be able to do it. Maybe not to the advanced degree of those who have far larger brains than ours. However, we have the rudimentary hardware that is required to both send and receive telepathically. Okay? And we've proven that to ourselves and other contactees who have practiced their telepathy and had success in contact will tell you, yes, if you practice, it does work. And then the other part of this is sometimes having other experiencers describe to you their first attempts at communication, how they got started, and their experiences of what it was like for them, helps people understand what to expect versus just the Hollywood radio voice of telepathic, notion that's been put out there for years. The understanding of, I got these images, I got this overwhelming feeling of emotion, I got this, I got that. Those descriptions from multiple people, multiple contactees, also help the new beginner understand kind of what to expect and what to watch for and listen for that they didn't know to do before. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. And I mean this kind of with everything.
Strength in numbers.
Like UFOs too. I've seen people point, look, that's a UFO. And I'm like, well, that could be a plane, a satellite or something, right? We don't really know. But
that's right.
Then I've had experiences when I've seen something go, okay, that's a UFO, right? Because it's not, you just know. Those types of experiences are the ones that we all seek, right? And which is why, I became fascinated with what you guys are doing in your book, because there's so many testimonies. And I'm just to be perfectly honest with you, I've talked about doing this on my own, but I'm kind of afraid. I'm kind of scared to do this.
And
I don't know why.
I understand that. If you're still afraid, then just keep working through and thinking about it until you get to the point where you'll wake up one day and go, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm okay with this. I think I can do this. That's when you know that you're ready. Until you get to that point, practice your telepathy. It's not going to hurt, and it will open doors for you in your regular old everyday life. Yeah. Whether it's with family, friends, or coworkers, okay? Having that as an additional skill in your life, I'll tell you, makes a difference, especially if you have a significant other that has the same kind of skill set that you do. Otter and I communicate telepathically all the time.
Hell, if I don't keep the doors and windows shut, she's always in that house.
Shush. Oh, shush.
That's kind of scary, though. So you can't slip nothing by anymore. They know what you're really thinking.
That's right.
Well, we have a very open and honest relationship, and it just kind of is, and you learn to live with it, But I was thinking back to the early days of when I first began to start connecting with spirits or terrestrial beings, and how uncomfortable I was in it trying to find somebody to even talk to about it, because I don't want to get locked up for being crazy or weird.
Right.
And it's taken me almost 40 years to come up with somebody I can trust and I can talk to about this subject matter. Because I spent a lot of semi-lonely years, you can say, with my own solace of what I was experiencing and understanding and learning from the collective consciousness at that time in my life.
I'm really glad you're saying this, because this is one of the things I've thought about, Rev, is okay, there's got to be people out there that are always going to say, you know what, that guy's crazy. He really thinks there's just going to be people out there that's always going to think that, right? And for me, if something happens, and I think this might be one of the things I'm afraid of, if something really does happen, then now I become that person in this world who I don't know if I can explain these things to. And so to me, you have to have a lot of guts. Just number one, both of you, even Juan, for coming out and saying, yeah, man, this stuff is real. It's really happening. And it happened to me. And that right there, I think a lot of people take for granted just how scary that could be to come out to the public with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well,
it is scary.
I've seen what's happened on Twitter, and a lot of different people coming and sharing their same experiences, as opposed to just following the lead of who's doing the account. And it's grown, and it's grown organically in its own way, and it's really been a nice thing to see.
That's good to have a support group like that. For sure.
We do say it's very important to find people that you can talk to openly and honestly, because when a CE5 happens to you for the first time, I'll tell you, it's going to overwhelm you. It will overwhelm you emotionally. It can overwhelm you physically. But spiritually, you will get knocked for a loop like nothing you've ever experienced before in your life. You'll have a spiritual hangover kind of thing. Yes.
Yeah, for a couple of days.
Because your world paradigm has suddenly been shattered. And because most people's experiences happen at night, Suddenly, the very next night after it happens for the first time, you're laying in bed trying to go to sleep going, are they going to come back? And you can't fall asleep. You become night vigilant. Not necessarily because it's PTSD, but you become night vigilant because you have thousands of unanswered questions.
Is there anything else that you would want to share with us, Juan, before we take these other calls?
No, thanks for having me on, and I want to say again thank you to Sue and Otter for everything they've done, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Thank you for calling. I really appreciate you sharing this with us.
Appreciate you calling.
Nice to meet you, Juan.
Bye-bye.
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 So, yeah, that's fascinating. That's really cool that you've got others that call in and just back you up on this stuff. We also have another caller, 609 area code. You're on the air with Sue Walker and the Reverend White Otter. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, my name is also Sue. How are you, Sue and Reverend Otter?
We are good. We are good. Thanks for calling in. What can we talk about with you?
Well, I wanted to add my take on contact because I
would love to hear
in person. I was, sort of hanging out on the Twitter chat for a while, and I didn't have any agenda or anything, and I really just thought it was a person that was just being positive or pretending to be an alien and being positive and spreading positivity. Sure. However, people like to be a fantasy or whatever. And I don't care. Whatever spreads positive and is uplifting to others or supportive in whatever they think or whatever, that's what I love about Twitter and social media. So I was just sort of enjoying their stuff, and there's a truth that resonates underneath of it, and a very supportive, positive thing, and it's also humor, And then one time I was actually going through a really upsetting period, figuring out stuff emotionally and psychically, and I was asleep, and I was in a state where I was very upset, so I wasn't really asleep. I was in between. I wasn't really in myself. I wasn't really fully asleep. And then all of a sudden I realized that there's something else in the room with me or in my mind with me. And I didn't open my eyes, but I just felt that there was presences next to me, and they were sort of at my bedside, and it felt like they reached out to sort of take my pulse. And it wasn't, I was alarmed because of me, not because of them, and they actually calmed me down, sort of like they were taking my pulse and in training with me to calm down, whatever's going on, be peaceful. So I was noticing that, and I was like, okay, and I got the sense that there were 3 presences, maybe 2 at least, and they were very reassuring and calming. And then I sort of got freaked out because of my other thing going on, so I sort of pulled back, and they sort of just stepped back, and they were like, okay, cool, they were not pushing anything, they were just sort of being there supportively. And then I had other things where I sort of saw things out of the corner of my eye, but I was going through a lot of weird stuff emotionally, so I wasn't really ready to connect, and I actually had to pull away because I had too much going on, and I have a repel field around me that I'm still dealing with. It's a very strange thing psychically. I'm blocked. So I sort of just had to cut everything out, and I kind of felt bad that I pulled away from this interaction, but I kind of had to for me. But I still listen in on Twitter, and I sort of talk, and but their humor and their positive support is just one way to discern this stuff. And the one thing I did remember noticing, people on Twitter tell you different funny stories of what they've left behind or leaving them food or whatever. And I did notice that they tuned all of my guitar strings up, significantly up.
That sounds so
I live alone.
Oh my goodness, you're not the only one who said that.
I wonder if that happened to Kevin, too.
I live alone. No one comes in. Yeah. I kind of have a repel field, so no one's around here. and they tuned all my guitar strings up. So, like, that's how I know, like, if anybody needed proof of anything, it's proof, because guitar strings don't, like, they tune up. They loosen.
Right, they don't, yeah. That's hilarious.
If anyone was concerned about, like, these people are trying to take over us or whatever, they're telepathic beings, and we're so stupid telepathically as a culture. We're blocked from it all the time. They could just thwart us any way they wanted, just using our own minds. We're so easy. We're very easy to just get in and overtake our thoughts.
But instead, they tuned your guitar. Right.
Yeah, right? But, I mean, as soon as I had any hesitation about, like, scared or fear, they just step back. They're like, okay, step back, something's going on with her. And they didn't have an agenda. They weren't trying to overtake. They were just trying to, like, visit and make connections.
Had you asked them for a visit?
No, I mean, yes, because I downloaded the thing and I was the guide, and I was sort of doing that. I've had other experiences, like with a tree nearby. Like a tree started to draw things on its leaves for me, like a picture of itself. And in the ice in front of this tree, I would have like things draw the tree on the ice, like for me. And so there's other special weird things going on with me. So I was just trying, that's part of like my healing and my, I guess, this connection that's coming up. So I was trying to sort of, just explore that and, see what it was about and get guidelines of how to do things more controlled and in a more like programmed way for myself. And then, so yes, I did invite that in, but I wasn't specifically trying to have like, oh, pick me, pick me, pick me. But I think because I have other abilities, I was probably put on their let's visit her list because she's open, has some, skill.
Already has a skill
not
set.
Trained skill. Yeah, and I was open
you already had
to it,
an
and
existing
so,
skill set. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was sort of like open to it and sort of positive and not like, not freaked out by it, not whatever. So I also live alone and don't have an animal, so that's probably another good thing. It's like, wow, they have to be aware of their safety too, so. But, the one thing I do want to mention in terms of the telepathy, if they're hesitant or whatever about actually contacting beings from a different planet, you could use it to practice within your own things, like with your pets or with your plants or with your coworkers at work or, in situations with your own life. I had to like tap into higher things of your own self. There's a receptiveness that you need for that helps you with. So, that would be one other way that you could use that stuff. So I just wanted to share my story of, I think you mentioned discernment was really important.
Very.
And this will help you develop discernment, not just on, if you want an off-world contact, but just within your own things going on in your life or with your, coworkers or family members or your dog,
We say, in general, that if you do practice the telepathy, even if you're not doing it for CE5 contact of any kind, it still will open doors for you.
Oh, good, because I can't wait to talk to my cat.
That's absolutely right. And even just like the cloud formations and the spirits of the sky, there's dimensional beings that really have curiosity here too. And it's amazing that like you can get the sky to interact with you, the clouds, and, you can clear out clouds or you can have them form faces for you and play with you. Because there's a lot of nature that wants to interact and play with us. We're a lot bigger beings than we are led to believe, and there's other things that have curiosity and playfulness that like to see us enlighten ourselves and turn on a little bit. They notice it. It's like little lights going off and sparkles, and they look down and like, oh, that's a human waking up a little bit or something, I think. So
that's a good analogy. That's a very well said analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, listen. We're at the top of the hour. I really appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and say hi to everybody in the Ponte and everyone.
Will do.
All right. Thank you for your call. We've got to go to the top of the hour break, guys. Remember, if you want to call in, it's 1-800-588 888-0335. That is toll free from the United States or Canada. Look, if you've wanted to get in contact with an alien race, or if you want to learn this stuff, this is, I think, is at the top right now as far as looking into the information. They've got a book called Inviting ET. You can check everything out at officialfirstcontact.com. Guys, we will be right back. And don't forget the call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. Please, if you can for me, do not call the text-in number. Thank you very much. We'll be right back with Sue Walker and the Reverend White Otter.
All night, I guess that's just my fate. Seems like I'm always $1 short and always one day late. Seems like I'm always $1 short, always one day late. When I lose my appetite, that's when...
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Father Mortimer's Drive-In Church, the only church in town with an express confession lane for 6 sins or less.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news. These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info, and find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
When you're always on the go, it can be a hassle getting the proper servings of veggies and fruits into your everyday diet. Life gets hectic, making it hard for us to always make healthy food choices. Not to mention it's pretty expensive. Wouldn't it be great to ditch the long grocery store lines, but still get your fruits and veggies all at once? What you need is Balance of Nature Fruits and Veggies capsules, made with 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and grown right here in the USA. Balance of Nature is 100% natural, safe, and affordable. For a limited time, use discount code TALK and you'll get 35% off your first preferred set of Balance of Nature Fruit and Veggie capsules, along with free shipping. Call 1-800-246-8751 today. Ready for the real results you want and need? Then you need Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751. That's 1-800-246-8751 and use code TALK.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE.
Yo-hoy there. Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're going to bring you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic. On our show,
Shift Happens, live Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific, that's 10 p.m. Eastern, on The Fringe FM.
And remember, kids, don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, so the topic tonight is the CE5 event, inviting ET. We're here with Sue Walker and the Reverend White Otter. This is something I've always wanted to do, right? It's kind of blunt when you say it that way, but let's talk to aliens, right? So here's the thing. This is the book, Inviting ET. You can grab it on Amazon. You can go to officialfirstcontact.com and get it. It's a whole manual on how to have a close encounter of the fifth kind, either by yourself or with a group. And that's the discussion tonight. The phone lines are open. It's 1-800-588-0335. You can call in. And that is toll-free from the U.S. or Canada. You can also text in at 501-777-5631. And, yes, I do have some of your emails. I will get to them as well because some of you sent me some questions for them via email. And that in that email is contact@lightingthevoid.com. We have Jason on the line who wants to share something with us. How you doing, Jason?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. What's on your mind?
Well, I was calling in to comment on the Sandia crew and the Telepathy 101 primer and Inviting ET book. I started interacting with them back in about mid-2016 or so. I was kind of iffy on it, as most people are. And, then I started noticing that things were starting to add up. And I started, I was actually in the Inviting ET book. We did one of the first CE5 parties. And that night was interesting.
Really?
It was pretty interesting. It was me, Karen, and Jack. We all were hanging out in a big garage, and we had music playing. We were just sitting there chit-chatting, having fun. Then we start noticing something, like there was a noise coming from the roof. It kind of sounded, it was like someone was either like kind of like tapping on it or like tiptoeing on the roof. And we had also had Karen had her dog in there, and we were told they were going to show up, but we weren't quite sure. We thought maybe it was the wind because it was kind of windy that night. And she called, I don't remember her dog's name. She kept calling to the dog to go, she'd say, "Who's that? Where are they?" And the dog would start running off into a corner, in a different corner every time. And we'd catch things out of our peripheral. Like the other important thing too is like when you're practicing your telepathy, you also want to practice looking at your peripheral vision. Like I do that too. Pretty much every night, I'll look up at the ceiling fan. And if you look up like at the ceiling and then kind of look out of the corner of your eye, sometimes you can catch them walking around in your room.
Really?
And I've caught them multiple. Yeah. When I first started doing it, I wasn't really getting too much. Sometimes I see like a hand wave, because like they'll stand like by my closet and wait for me to get into bed. And sometimes I can see them waving, like waving their hand at me, or like walking across my room. Like you can see like the silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, it's been picking up. Like within the past week and a half or so, I've seen them within, I'd say, 5 feet of my bed. But you can just see the silhouette. It's hard to explain. But
well, see, this is where I get confused. Why don't they just phase in front of you?
I don't know, because like when I was a kid, it was different. Because I've been in contact. But furthest I can remember back is when I was 5 years old, and I'd be playing in the woods, and then they just appear out of nowhere and walk up to me.
Okay.
And like, like when I was, and I've had them come through my wall, like blue light, just out of nowhere, and they'd walk through the wall, but I couldn't. It was more like a silhouette with them as well, because it's so bright. But I don't understand that part as well. I'm not sure why they don't do that.
I really think maybe why they don't is because I got to think if they actually did, even though you're like, okay, I'm ready for it. Show me your physical body right in front of me. Just stand here in front of me. I'm not so sure that we are ready for it. So if they leave that little bit of doubt or the stuff that's happening in your peripheral, which by the way, I've had happen to me tremendously. Sometimes it's just things that I see out of the corner of my eye, but I've had, like I was telling you before, Sue, these things that are very few and far between, but super intense, where I know I saw something, and that's something totally different. And so I'm not just talking about the Ponte. Why do beings, period, do that? Why can they not get in front of you? Or why is that just us glitching and catching a part of something that we're not supposed to? You wonder about that.
You do wonder about that, and I think it's different on a case-by-case basis. And let me give you an analogy. If I have a group of soldiers from a military, I've got 6 privates and 1 captain. The privates aren't at liberty to act spontaneously as much as the captain, usually. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. If you're visited by a group of captains, are they likely to show themselves to you because they're more at liberty to do so than, say, a group of privates who aren't sure if they should break the rules, so to speak? That could be part of it. Sometimes it is on a case-by-case basis, depending on their perception of whether or not your fear will be triggered. If you're dealing with a batch of new trainees, and there is a batch of new trainees, Jason, by the way, that's a whole bunch of new green ones. And so the increase in visitation may be partially due to they've got a new batch of trainees they're sending out to do first visits, and they pick locations that are familiar and are less of a threat for the new trainees to interact in than
like a proving ground.
Kinda. So we see an increase here during that kind of a period of time as well. The catching things out of your peripheral vision, you've got a little bit different receptors at the edges of your vision than you do in your frontal vision. And for reasons we don't know that we can explain scientifically, the angle of light bounce that comes in peripherally allows you to catch that shimmer effect or see them in person much easier.
It's the edge of the ultraviolet.
I don't know if it's the edge of the ultraviolet, but it's the edge of the vision, and the angle has to do with it too. That said, we see them sometimes make mistakes and goof up and be visible when they're not supposed to be. And have we bumped into them literally physically in our house? Yes, we have. Both of us have. In separate occasions with separate individuals. And so, give you an example of a goof from our house just 3 nights ago. Saw a 4-fingered hand run across the table that I have my computer on in front of me, sitting on the sofa. Just saw the finger edge run across the top of the table, and it was gone. I saw it, Otter saw it, and I said, "That was a hand." And he said, "That was a hand." And I went, "Okay, somebody's here." And then we had to figure out who. But it was a goof. And so can sometimes they just be visible by mistake? I suppose, yeah. All the reasons why they choose to be seen or not seen, I think they judge us on a case-by-case basis too, guys. Are you ready?
Right.
Are you going to be afraid? Are you open? Are you practiced enough that this isn't going to overwhelm you? Remember, at least our Ponte friends have the cause no fear, do no harm, leave no trace protocols that they're taught. Could that be part of it? Yeah, I suppose so. We've talked to a lot of people who get screen memories too. Jason, have you ever had them portray themselves as somebody or something else and then morph?
Oh,
like a screen
times.
memory?
Yeah.
What kind of screen memories have they done for you?
Let's see. Okay, so one time I took a nap in the afternoon, and I rolled over onto my side, and my face was towards the wall, and I left some. I always leave some room because for some reason they like to walk onto my bed to grab me. So I left some space between me and the wall, and I threw the blanket over me, and I remember just falling asleep. I wake up because of the footsteps on my bed, and I say, "Oh, hey, Peter, how you doing?" I knew it was Peter. Like, I could see the blanket opening around my face. I didn't see him. I just knew it was him.
Mm-hmm.
And we start talking. I'm like, "How you doing?" I go to grab his calf, like pretend like I'm gonna knock him down, kind of like jiggle him a little bit. We were just joking around, and he kind of sticks his knee into me to like roll me onto my back to get back at me. And the next thing I know, we're standing. There was a gap there, and then the next thing I know, I'm standing out of the bed with him, and I was like, "Hey, if you want a snack, go get a snack." He's like, "Yeah." Like he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'll take a snack." And then I know I kind of have like another blackout moment.
So they eat our food,
and then I see my daughter walking in the hall. I've had food missing, but I haven't witnessed them actually eating.
Oh,
but
okay.
I offered him the food.
Like Hershey's Kisses.
This is incredible.
They do eat some of our food. Their dietary requirements are a little different than ours, and their cultural preferences are also a little different than ours. However, there are some foods here that they find delightful and some foods that they won't eat because they're considered pescatarian. Oh, yeah, I know. We're getting a whole bunch of feedback from the mountain. Sorry. They're kibitzing.
The Screaming Chicken says pizza.
Oh, yeah, right. No, they've tried a number of our foods, and pizza with anchovies and lots of vegetables is one of their favorites, actually.
You know, this is so much. Sue, you guys realize just how much this is for a guy like me, how much this is to take in, right?
Oh, yeah.
You really, I mean, I'm sure.
It every day.
Yeah, okay. So, Jason, can you tell us about your first experience? Because I got some other callers I got to get to. But can you tell us about when you knew that you were what happened that made you know that you were making contact with extraterrestrials? The most convincing thing.
No. The most convincing, when I had my first memory, and that was with PETA. He snapped my shorts.
Snapped your shorts.
I was goofing on that. Snapped my shorts. Yeah. I was teasing him. Like, I was trying to figure out what was going on. Like, I knew ET existed. I've had my experiences and all, but I was trying to figure out this Twitter account thing. And I was told that PETA was going to be over here. So I start smart-mouthing him, just joking around. I go to sleep, just my underwear. It was summertime, and it was hot. So I just slept in my underwear. I didn't have a blanket. And I'm on my side. I go to sleep. Next thing I know, I feel my underpants smack my back. I basically did a barrel roll in the air out of my bed, and I get up and looking around. What the heck was? I was trying to think. I'm like, arms on my, because I sleep on my side. So I'm like, were my arms both on my right side, or did I have one behind me and like went to itch my back? And I'm like, wait, when I woke up, they were both here. So what the heck happened? And I'm like, that had to have been PETA. It had to have been. And I just started laughing. I'm like, I can't believe he did that. I cannot believe it. And then I just went back to sleep after a while. I was just like amazed. I'm like, I can't believe he snapped my underwear. I don't know.
As a joke,
how he
like
built
a prank,
up the courage
right?
to do that.
As a joke, like a prank.
They will prank. Yeah. They have a sense of humor, and that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. They really do. You can, if you're comfortable enough to joke with them, go ahead and do it. They love that.
Oh boy,
they will prank.
They
you
will
back.
joke back. Be careful.
Yes, they will. I've had other pranks as well, but they will get you.
So just to be clear, on the Twitter account, that's at Sandia Wisdom, right? That you guys have on Twitter.
Correct. Exactly.
There are conversations that go back and forth between people and the Ponte on Twitter. Is this right?
Correct.
Yep.
Live and in person.
So the aliens are, they're using Twitter, folks. You know what I think is incredibly funny about this is all of the people that want to talk to aliens or they're just fascinated with UFOs, even the super skeptics. They want to believe, they want to talk to aliens, but they got to have 100% proof all the time, which I'm kind of one of those people too. That's why I'm kind of scared to do it. And I think it's not because it's a negative thing. I think I'm kind of afraid to do it because it might actually work. Now think about this. It's kind of like, and this is kind of a bad analogy, but it's kind of like when you're in elementary school or junior high and there's that girl that you always wanted to go out with, right? But you don't ask her, because if you don't ask her, you still have a chance. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But if she blows you off, then it's over. It's kind of the whole afraid of success thing. So I would challenge any of the skeptics to do this, to get the book. And this, I mean, it's not a push to sell books, folks. This thing is what? It's $11. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm going to get a group and we'll do this. I promise. I'm making a promise to you right now that I'm going to attempt this full-fledged. I'm going to go for it. Just like I did in junior high or elementary school or whatever.
Well,
have a good time with it.
When you step through that veil, you'll understand how dynamic a world this really is out there.
Yep. There's a lot going on that we are not aware of because our eyesight is limited compared to other species. Our hearing is limited compared to other species. And there are things beyond our visual spectrum that are going on all the time that we miss. And we're just now finding out how much of it is really being able to be caught in technical equipment now.
Well, with
other
hundreds
spectrums,
of photographs.
But we're finding that there's a learning curve of all kinds of stuff out there. And we don't have all the answers yet, which is why we value the stories of all the other contactees just as much as our own interactions with the Ponte, because we can't be the only ones communicating with them, and we know that. They travel and visit everybody. And we're just as fascinated to hear your stories as you are to hear ours.
Right on.
So let's all share.
Thank you so much for calling in, too, Jason.
And open. Yeah,
I really
thanks,
appreciate
Jason.
it.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
That, dude.
Thanks for having me on.
I bring that up, that girl thing, because my son was in here the other day, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, do you know what prom is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know what prom is." And he's like, "Well, I'm supposed to go, and I want to ask this girl." And I just jumped at him. I was like, "Well, just ask her, you know." And it didn't occur to me that he's just a kid, right? He's nervous of being let down.
Sure.
And it's kind of that way, I think, with certain skeptics. You know, I'm with you for the skeptics. I'm right there with you guys. But until we attempt it, like I've always said on the show, until we learn to let our experience and curiosity guide us to our truth, then we're not really seekers of truth, are we? We just want to tell everybody about what we think is right. So I think it's a good attempt to try. I'm going to have a little courage here and take this unknown caller. Who's on the air with us? You are on the air.
This is Wookie.
Wookie.
Whoa!
Wookie from Australia. Bless your heart, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for your patience.
You're talking to the land down under.
What time is it over there?
Late.
It's 11:30 Mountain, midnight 30 Central, 10:30 Pacific.
Oh, beautiful.
Dark
That's a
30.
nice time of the night, that is.
What's on your mind?
Dark 30. Hey, look, I just wanted to call up and just add my piece to the Ponte story, because it's an amazing thing, and I've experienced them, and you know, I had a friend that we did a radio show with down here for a while, and my friend was he was a little bit skeptical, so he challenged the Ponte to turn up at his place, and wasn't really expecting anything to happen. And then the next week, I go over to his place to record the next episode, and he's freaking out, and he's having a fight with his wife and everything. And so I just sort of politely inquired as to, you know, was everything all right? And he said, "Oh, yes, my wife is, you know, she doesn't want me to do any of this spooky stuff anymore. She said it's getting too real." And I said, "Well, what happened?" And he said that last night she'd woken up in the middle of the night, and there was this, pardon the term, Sue,
okay,
a little gray alien in her bedroom. And she freaked out.
Really?
And and she grabbed a hold of its sleeve and sort of, like, you know, was freaking out, you know. And the thing pulled, I shouldn't say the thing, the little guy pulled away, and she ended up tearing part of its sleeve off, and to my knowledge they still have it. So that's all she remembered. She then woke up, you know, the next day and tore strips off my friend. After doing this, you know, getting into the spooky alien stuff, you know. And
so wait a minute.
So
They wear clothes?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, that was the best thing with this one, is that this particular guy was wearing like a black rubbery wetsuit, neoprene, like bodysuit, which is a bit different to your usual thing that people report little greys as wearing, you know. And so I said to him, you know, like, okay, describe its clothes, and then I messaged Sue and said, Sue, can you ask whoever's on the desk to communicate with the Tasman Ocean, Tasman Sea Base, which is the one off the coast of where I live, and just ask them what are they wearing, you know, when they visited, you know, did they visit and what were they wearing? And Sue said, alrighty, and she got back to me about an hour later. I didn't tell her anything. And she said, the one that came and saw your friend was wearing a black rubbery one sort of wetsuit, black suit. And my mate saw it, and it just got real for him real quick at that point.
Wow.
So yeah, no, it's a really, really cool experience, you know.
Listen,
and I have yeah.
No, we've got I hate to cut you off, but we're at the bottom of the hour here. Do you mind staying with us through the break, if you don't mind? Unless this is costing you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind at all, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, stay with us through the break because I want to get your most convincing experience as well, too. And then I still want to ask Sue and the Rev a few more questions. But we'll be right back, you guys. The call number is 1-800-588-0335. Thank you so much for listening, wherever you're listening from across the World Wide Web. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. We'll be right back.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's Unidirectional Elevators. Remember, Ed's Elevators will never let you down.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. The site of the 1947 UFO crash near Roswell, New Mexico, has changed hands. The ranching property, now owned by Dinwiddie Cattle Company, LLC, has been synonymous with extraterrestrials and government cover-ups for the past 72 years. The Army first said they had recovered a flying disc, but later changed their story to a high-altitude weather balloon, which nobody believes, right? The new owner says they're not sure about whether the property will be opened back up to the public. The previous owners hosted a UFO festival on the property last summer, which was for the first time they had opened up the land in their 66 years of ownership. A space station inside of an asteroid? Well, a study led by University of Vienna astronomer Thomas Meindl explores that possibility. It has not been peer-reviewed, though. He proposes that a solid asteroid, at least a few hundred meters in diameter, rotating 1 to 3 times per minute, would create sufficient subsurface gravity to allow miners to safely hammer out a treasure trove of rare and precious minerals. Putting a base inside an asteroid rather than on the surface would shield miners from deadly radiation. Meindl says seeing this become a reality might take decades. Read these stories and more at ParanormalRadio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm.
Back to Lighting the Void. I'm Joe Roop. We're live on KTOK Digital Broadcasting, the Fringe FM. Don't forget, after this show airs, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable is coming up on the Fringe FM. We've got broadcasting for you all night long, all week long. So stay with us. Tonight we're talking to Sue Walker, the Reverend White Otter, and some of call-ins, some people that are attesting to the CE5 or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind experiences they've had talking to the Ponte. And now the Ponte are a group of extraterrestrials from Zeta Reticuli 2, and I will get into some questions about that too. But Wookie is on the line with us. Wookie from the land down under, and I asked him during the break why they called, and it was kind of funny. I said, why do they call you Wookie? And he said, well, because I'm big, tall, and hairy. Duh. Right? So that was kind of funny, man. But so tell me, Wookie, about when was your first experience with what's going on with Sue and Reverend White Otter with the Ponte? What was the most convincing experience, rather, for you that you said, man, this is real? I know this is real now.
Well, look, me and the Ponte, we go way back, and I go way back before I knew about the Ponte with this sort of stuff. So I kind of, I came in with a little bit of a head start because I was already aware of what was going on, and I was already aware of telepathy and had some practice using it. But my first real experience with the Ponte was when but before I actually knew about Sue, I actually saw them around my house. Around here, because the Tasman Sea base isn't far from where I live, and I actually started seeing their shadow forms around the house. They would often come in pairs, sometimes by themselves, and they're just curious. They'd just be watching. But when I heard about the Ponte, I was suddenly figured out who the hell it was who had been visiting. Mm-hmm. But the most interesting experience I had with them was straight after my friend told me that he'd been visited during the night, and he was kind of freaked out by it. And I realized that if you stop looking at them from the point of view of aliens or whatnot, and realize that they're just like people, just from a different culture, from a different place, and you realize that this little 4.5 foot tall guy was essentially entering the gorilla cage while the gorillas were sleeping with my friend's house. And he walked in all by himself, and he woke up my friend's wife and said, "Look, here I am." And basically, the guys walked into a gorilla cage and shook awake a gorilla. Now, if that doesn't take balls, I don't know what does.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so we look at it from our aspect like it's a big deal, but it's really a big deal to them too.
It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the bravery, it dawned on me the absolute kahunas that this little guy must have had. You know what I mean? I know some brave guys. Actually, some of them are more stupid than brave, but anyway. Mm-hmm. But this guy just took the cake. I mean, like I said, if you can imagine walking into the gorilla enclosure and shaking awake a gorilla, that's essentially what this guy did. And, let's face it, I mean, they're not stupid. They probably don't go into these situations unarmed, okay? But let's face it, he went by himself, and I just had the most incredible awe for the bravery of this little guy. So I decided, I sent out a message that night saying, look, fella, you are, you're one of the bravest people I know. I know you like chocolate, so I'm going to leave chocolate out for you. So that night, I got a clip-sealed egg and put some chocolate in it. And so that my dog wouldn't get it, I had to try and find a place that was up high where my dog couldn't get at it. Unfortunately, at that particular point in time, my wife came home. And to avoid the questions, I just had to kind of stick it on the branch of a tree and then quickly wander back inside. There was a note with it just explaining the situation and what it was for and just to say thank you and whatnot. Well, the next morning I woke up because I woke up and I had this sudden feeling of dread that I said I was going to do this. And after my wife came home, I got distracted. I never actually put it out. I left it up in the branch of that tree. So I went outside to go remove it, and the bag and the chocolate was gone. And I thought, damn it, the dog must have got it or something like that. And then I looked to the side of the branch, and it was now stuck on a different branch with the note still in it, the clip seal done up, and the chocolate removed.
Huh.
So,
that kind of resembles the same things that I've heard of typical like Sasquatch encounters do and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
There's no real way to somebody intelligent did that, and there was nobody else in my yard that could have done it. So whoever it was, they got themselves some chocolate.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Well, wow! Yeah. Thank you for calling in. I can't imagine what time it is. What time is it in Australia right now?
It is now sitting at 16:45, 4:45.
Okay, cool.
In the afternoon, that is.
Well, listen, hey, I really appreciate your patience. I really appreciate you calling in. It's so hard to call you Wookie. I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying thanks a lot, Wookie. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your phone call.
No worries. Keep up the great show. I'll keep listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm kind of amazed at just how all of the callers that have called in so far you can tell something's happened to them. They're very positive, very upbeat, very happy. It sounds to me like their lives are changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with that. I think that the Ponte, in our own experience, in talking to all of these contactees all over the planet, would concur that their lives are changed, and I would say 99.9% of them are saying for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, you still get somebody who's afraid and who pulls back because they're not ready. But for the most part, the interactions have delighted people. they realize that they're dealing with other people who have personalities, who have intelligence and humor and knowledge and patience and fortitude and aspects that, gosh, Hollywood just doesn't normally paint of little Zeta-looking extraterrestrials.
Right.
And so we have learned a great deal about this particular star nation, keeping in mind it's not the only star nation that visits our planet. Our Ponte friends tell us that actually on any given day, somewhere between 75 and 80 separate star nations can be found either on the surface, under the surface, or in the oceans. And about 75% of them come here because of the oceans, not because of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
We're a water world. We're a water world, and we're an amazing water world. And we ourselves confess that we don't understand all of what goes on in our own oceans.
We
certainly can't translate the language.
Right. Yeah. And see, we talked about that not too long ago, where they're still discovering species in the ocean. Like they just discovered a new species of shark in the ocean. And so we're far from discovering everything that's going on down there. We have a frequent listener, caller Moonlit. Moonlit's on the phone. How you doing, brother? What's on your mind?
Doing good. I'm trying to be positive and upbeat, looking for that super moon out here.
Yeah, I hear you. I didn't get to see it either.
And great show, guys. Great show. And learning a lot of information. And I just want to call in and say I want the Ponte to come visit me.
Uh-oh.
I've got lots of cookies and snacks, and I'm willing to cook for them.
Be careful what you wish for, sir.
So do you have the primer?
I got 4 cats, and we'll sit around and have a good old party, and we'll just feast on down, okay?
Well, so I'm sure, I mean, he makes a good point. I'm sure there's listeners listening right now go, man, I want to talk to him. Okay. I mean, we haven't even talked about that. What do they need to do first?
First recommendation that our Ponte friends say is it takes a little while to get your brain used to understanding when you're hearing a telepathic voice, because the first, I suppose 30 days you practice. The telepathic voice can sometimes sound like what we call your own head thought voice. But if you keep at it, you slowly but surely train your brain to distinguish different individuals' voices that are being sent to you telepathically. What you're looking for initially is a response to anything that you put out there that's a hello. And the Telepathy 101 primer is a free, easy to understand download from Official First Contact. It's a slideshow. You can go through it probably in an hour. But what it does is it gives you the step-by-step of what's the easiest way for you to learn how to do this, and then what are the protocols that they are teaching us to employ using the telepathy so that you increase your chances of being heard by them and responded to.
There you go, Moon. That's how you get that party started.
Well,
for free.
I'll tell you this. I'm an awfully weird person, so if there's chances of them talking to anybody on the first date, it's me. So.
Hey, there you go. Have a good dialogue. Be sure to just treat them like people. They might be short people with very large eyes. And by the way, the dark eyes, those are just retractable lenses that cover the real whites of their eyes. Their colored part of their eyes is huge and gorgeous, but their eye retina is very sensitive to our light spectrum. Theirs has more red tones. If you go on their craft, usually it's backlit with a low red light. So that they can retract their lenses and see what they're doing. But when they visit
us, I keep the lights dark in here, and I'll put on some nice mood lighting, and we'll be all set.
Well,
just a few slow, low lighting is probably best.
Thanks for calling, Moon. It's a good question.
Ready.
I appreciate it, brother.
You guys have a great night. I appreciate it.
We'll pass the word along, Moon.
Now, Sue, there's something that I've been noticing throughout this conversation.
What's that?
That, from my point of view and a lot of other, like Moon and my point, we want it to be real. We want this to be real.
Yeah.
What I hear from you is a connection that you have, a real relationship that you have with these beings, almost as if you're protective of them. And that, to me,
they become our friends. They have earned our trust and our respect by sharing knowledge that has not ever been known on our planet, freely and openly. Mm-hmm. They're trying to help us understand the complexity of cultures, plural, out there, and that we essentially have genetic family that comes from the stars. We got cousins out there, if you want to say it that way. And they're knowing that we're at the technological stage of leaving our own world to explore other worlds. And to be honest, they want to help us get off on the right foot because we don't know the backstory of the galaxy. And we should before we start venturing too far too fast. And so they're saying, let's meet and help get you guys caught up to speed. By the way, there's lots of us. And we'd like to do that in the fall of 2021. Is that good for you guys? Is kind of the message that we're getting. If that makes sense.
Why, and I mean this with all of, like, from the bottom of my heart, I think I understand why. Well, how come they picked you and Reverend White Otter as, well, they're big messengers. Why do you think that is?
We asked that same question.
Because we listened.
Well, we not only listened, we responded.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so here's what we asked Commander Teal'c, because he was the first one to contact us out of the blue. It was September of 2013, and we did not expect it at all. And when we asked him, why us? He said, well, to be honest, we telepathically contact. That's what we call a ping. We ping a lot of people, but not everybody responds. And you not only responded and answered back, but you were polite and curious and unafraid. And I went, that was it? And he said, yes. But then later, what we also know is that both Otter and I, in childhood, both had visits by the Ponte as we were growing up at various times. And so what we've deduced later, and what Teal'c has confessed to, is we've been on their record books, so to speak, for a while. And I think that played into it, but how much, I don't know.
And how
we just started dialoguing back and forth like neighbors across the backyard fence because we were as curious about all this as anything, and we wanted to figure out if it was real.
Right.
And so we started keeping journals, and we kept track of the information that Teal'c would give us that we would then take and try and go research as best we could to see if it was valid. Because Otter and I both came into this really skeptically. And I tell you what, it knocked us both for a loop. And we spent months talking about it with each other and comparing notes and figuring out, is this something that we can trust? Is this valid? Is this real? Are we nuts? This is happening to both of us. And then physical stuff started happening. When the gravity wave went through our living room and picked us both up off the couch and set us both back down, and we realized we had 20 minutes of missing time, then it became very real. The first time I bumped into one of them in the hallway at 2:00 in the morning on my way to the kitchen to get a drink of water. And I said, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't see you there." And the response back was, "That's all right." It became very real. The morning Otter came around the corner in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, and Tilcom was standing there. Just full body. So there are elements of it that even to us experiencing it on a regular basis, we had to have the skeptic within us satisfied and satisfied beyond. And so we had to prove it to ourselves over and over and over and over. Right. And then finally trusted it because other people began to report back that they had the same experiences as us. And now it's happening all over the world because our Ponte friends gave us the instruction to give to all of you. And so we're just the translators, guys. It's not coming from us. We're just translating because sometimes the telepathic messages are chunks of information that are an awful lot of information to try and digest and understand and put English words to.
Mm-hmm. Did that moment ever come where you and Reverend sat across from each other and was like, because I'm imagining this going, listen, we've got a very hard message to talk about here. Yeah. You know, but we got to do it. I think about your story when you're telling me this. There was a book I read called, it was a long time ago. I'm sure some people read it. It's called Conversations with God, where a man claimed that he talked to God. His name was Neil Donald Walsh. And the God character, they talked through telepathy, and the God character told him, he said, you have to deliver my message, but people are going to say you're crazy. You're going to get more pushback in your life than you've ever gotten. Are you prepared to do that? How important do you think this message is? And he even asked, and I say this and I relate this to the encounters. He even asked him, he said, well, look, if you're God, and we could say, look, if you're an alien, why don't you just come down here and show yourself, right? And the obvious answer was, well, if I've done that before, and if I've learned that if I do that, then people are going to say it's not real. They're going to say it's the devil. They're going to say it's this or that. They'll never say it for what it really is until they take it into their own experience.
That's right.
That's very true.
Because it's in our natures to push everything crazy away and say it's something else because we think it's crazy.
That's right. And that's why having your own experience so that you perceive it with your own eyes, your own ears, your own feelings, your own body will make all the difference in the world. When you're ready, give it a try. Until you've put down your fear, wait. Just be patient with yourself because it's a lot to take in. It is going to overwhelm you. It is going to change your world. We've found that it's changed our world for the better. And the other experiencers and contactees echo that as well. And we're very happy to hear their stories.
Yeah, I can tell it has. Listen, guys, this is your last chance. We've only got a few more moments with Sue Walker and Reverend White Otter. I think I might be the first person that's kept them up this late, so I feel kind of special right now. But yeah, so you can call in. Feel free. We're not going to bite you. I know there's a lot of people listening right now. I see you, and I know some of you want to call in, But you can text into, and I promise you I will get to your questions. Oh, by the way, Greg in the Spreaker chat, because I forgot to tell you guys we're over on Spreaker too, he wanted to say hi to you guys. I believe is Greg. He said, can you say hello to Sue for me? I was talking to her on Facebook today about my experience with the crew up in Scotland. Faces in the clouds and etc. So they just wanted to say hi.
We had a marvelous dialogue on Twitter, and Greg's story was one of recognizing that he was seeing lights and UFOs in the clouds, interacting and catching them on and off, and then suddenly recognized that the next cloud that went by, gee, that sure looked like a Zeta face. And he had read the Telepathy 101 primer, where the Ponte tell us that they not only have ships capable of creating cloud camouflage, but that those vessels can shape the cloud into whatever they wish, because they have to be able to blend the cloud in with whatever the stratus is in the sky, whether it's cumulus or, the different varieties of clouds. They can shape the cloud into whatever they want. And sometimes when they're bored or they want to interact with somebody on the ground, they'll honestly shape the cloud into a face of one of them. So Greg is noticing this face that's going by in the cloud that looks like a Zeta. And he watches, and the next cloud looks even more like. By the time he gets 6 clouds in a row that all are becoming clearer and clearer Zeta faces, he's recognizing that somebody is trying to say hello back by shaping the clouds. And he laughed out loud and just absolutely recognized he'd had a CE5. It really wasn't an in-person, I have a being standing in front of me CE5. But he had put out a hello and received an imagery hello back based out of technology that we don't have on Earth, and that's shaping clouds into whatever the heck shape you want.
Wow. Really cool. That is really cool.
We have seen that here on multiple occasions. We've witnessed craft coming into the Albuquerque sky space in order to interact with the Sandia Mountain Information Station. And sometimes they get multiple craft at once. To be honest, the people that go out in night vision here looking for UFOs, about every 6 minutes.
Nice.
No kidding.
Oh, good, because I wanted to get into this.
It's a big place to come do it.
We're really at the top of the hour. We do got to take our break here. You guys stay with us. If you, like I said, you can call the call-in line, 1-800-588-0335. Other ways to listen to the Fringe FM. Yes, we have an app. The Fringe FM has an app. You can grab the app. You can also, that's on the iTunes and Google Store. You can also listen on TalkStream Live. You can listen on the Paranormal Radio app as well. There is a call to listen line, which is 701-719-3971. Tune in, iTunes Radio. I can go on and on. Thank you guys so much wherever you're listening from. We'll be right back.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's Flavor Reduced Beer, the one that gives you all the calories of regular beer with only half the taste.
This is Al. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Introducing Shadow Light Tarot from Waking Canvas, the Fringe FM's new contributing artist, Eric Tesey. This hand-illustrated black and white self-published deck serves as a reinvention of the tarot, never before witnessed. Each of the several suits of this 88-card deck lineup form an infinite panoramic scene. Even the included visual companion guidebook is entirely hand-illustrated, cover to cover, with beautiful visuals and esoteric symbols and artwork. The newly released deck comes in a custom magnetic box with its own travel pouch. The Shadow Light Tarot Premium Deck and its travel-sized mini deck Wonder Light Tarot are both available now from WakingCanvas.com. If you use the code word FRINGE, that's F-R-I-N-G-E at checkout, you'll receive an extra 10% off your entire order. To discover more, including a free reading and time lapses of all the illustrated artwork, make your way over to WakingCanvas.com today. That's WakingCanvas.com.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. All right, you guys. So, again, you can call in or text in if you need to. I'm going to get some of your emails as well. We're here with Sue Walker and the Reverend White Otter. Inviting ET is the book. Official First Contact is the website. Have you wanted to communicate with extraterrestrials, specifically these, the Ponte from Zeta Reticuli 2, are apparently reaching out to us to communicate with us, and I think that's really cool. And this is not a case of a story and I've got insiders and all this stuff. This is a case of Sue and the Reverend White Otter coming forward with their book, their free download, and their manual. Not telling you what to think or believe about it, but asking you if you're willing to try to have your own close encounter of the fifth kind, which I think is very cool, and I respect it very much. And it's been a very awesome conversation having you guys on here. And Craig has called in. I believe he has an experience that he wants to talk about, which this is kind of a first, I think, with Craig. And he wants to ask you guys about it. So go ahead, Craig.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Great. We're anxious to hear your story.
Okay. So I was out loading, like I was working at the time, and there's like this big area that's down about 15 feet that used to have like large sulfur blocks and stuff for like oil and gas or whatever. So I'm standing there, I'm looking out over this big valley, and I saw like off to my left there was like a orangish kind of yellowish star looking thing, right? But it was bigger than most. So I was wondering what the heck it was. And I was sitting there looking at it, or standing there looking at it, and it flew from, I don't even know how far away it was, but to like right in the middle of where the sulfur block used to be, maybe like 100 yards from me, maybe about that. And it was like 35 feet wide and just stopped, made no sound. And it was like this just giant orb, right? It was probably 35 feet wide, and like it disappeared. And it was there for like maybe 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And I was looking for it, and I was like feeling my face to like see if I had anything. I don't know. I was kind of panicking at the time, right? I didn't know what was going on.
Sure.
After it disappeared, and then an owl flew out, and he was completely sideways. And this thing was like the biggest owl I've ever seen. Like it had like an 8-foot wingspan. I'm not even kidding. And it flattens out, doesn't flap its wings once, and lands up on the old like sulfur rack for loading, probably like 40 feet from me, right? So I'm trying to look at it, but like it was a really weird night. I had a really weird day even, but I was trying to walk up to it, and everything looked kind of grainy, like I couldn't see any texture on it. And I have very good night vision, like I have green eyes, so like I can see at night, right? Like I let more light into my pupils, you know what I mean? So like I'm walking up to it, I can't see anything. I got like 15 feet from this thing, and it was standing like, I swear, it's like 4 feet high, like, but it was up on a sulfur rack, which was like maybe 14 or 15 feet high. Maybe even 20, I don't know. It was up anyways. So as I got like about 15 feet away, my head started buzzing, and the only thing I could think of, like it wasn't even, anyways, the only thing I could think of was I'm not ready, and I was saying it like super, super fast. But also I guess I'm wondering is what did they want from me?
All right. So what you're describing, and let me see if I can retranslate this. You saw a craft that had the shape of an orb, and what we can tell you from what we have learned is when they put a field around the craft, that frequently is the description of an active field around one of their typical mission saucer skipper ships. That's what they call them. You witnessed the skipper ship go from point A to point B, 100 yards from you, and suddenly stop and perform physics that we know that we don't have craft that can do that, not that we profess to. You then witnessed an unusual owl, about the size of a typical Ponte, suddenly come at you and land 40 feet from you and just sit there and observe. Okay? But there was something off about the look of this. And you could tell that there was something off. And then in your head, you got this telepathic message of response of I'm not ready, and that interaction prompted you to back off. Okay? You recognize there was something more going on, because you surely wouldn't have said, I'm not ready to a typical owl, would you have?
No, I have no idea why I was saying that, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah. So your physical body, sometimes we say the body knows first, the brain sometimes catches up. All right? Your physical body was having a response. You felt the buzziness. You felt something different. You felt the change in emotion that prompted you to back up and not examine it too closely.
Got a kinesthetic impulse.
So you got a kinesthetic body response to a telepathic ping coming from what I suspect was not an owl, but likely one of our Ponte friends whose mission protocol is cause no fear. And so you got the message, you're not ready, back up. And in your mind, you translated it, I'm not ready, I'm out of here. Is that about right?
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay. So I would say you had a real interaction there.
Yeah, that sounds 100% legit to me. Yeah, for sure.
It still freaks me out. I still get like goosebumps.
Because I could see myself doing the same thing. Like, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not ready for this, or just having that feeling.
Yeah, you think you're okay. You're not.
Yeah.
Right. And if that happens, what the contactees who have experienced that fear response, that I'm not ready response, encounter is, instead of being pushy, the Ponte back right off. They don't press. They don't want you to be afraid. So if they sense that, they can do one of several things. One, they can put forward a screen memory of something that you're familiar with, like a big owl, that you would be less afraid of than if you saw one of them float into a tree and stand on a branch and look at you. Okay, so screen memories are employed on their part to lessen fear response and allow them more mission interaction time. Why you? Because you paid attention. You noticed. The ship came within 100 yards of you and you stayed put. The owl came at you and you recognized something was different, but you still stayed put. And in fact, you even approached. That's rare.
Yeah. Can I ask a question real quick too? What about so the owl thing, right? This is something that Mike Clellan brings up in his books, that many encounters they have owls, and I wonder, do you guys know what that's about?
Well, usually their choices of manifestations will be something you're familiar with or tend to recognize for various different reasons.
As non-threatening.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So we've heard owls. We've heard bunny rabbits that are 4 feet tall. I had an experience where they attempted to portray themselves as a baby shark standing on its hind flippers with large, dark, almond-shaped eyes. And I took one look at it and went, you're not a shark. So screen memories are not uncommon. And sometimes you'll see them morph from whatever it is they're trying to portray into what they normally look like, and then back into the screen memory. Almost like they're testing to see, if I show myself to you, are you going to freak out? If you are, I'm going to go back to what I was doing.
Well, there's a chapter in the book that we haven't really touched on, and it's the fact that the laws of physics may be bent right in front of you.
Right, and screen memories and seeing things morph from one thing into the next and back again falls into that laws of physics being busted right in front of your nose category.
That's really cool. See, because Craig's been a frequent listener of the show too, and usually
it's a wonderful experience story, Craig. And you know, if you think about it, nobody in your encounter tried to cause you any kind of harm or fear.
Yeah.
They purposely tried to not have you be afraid. That says something about them trying to reach you on a one-on-one level that's kind of positive. They were making an effort. They wouldn't do that if they didn't care, right?
Right. And see, this is something else I want to reiterate here is, can you tell, there's other things that we can do. We don't always have to have scientific evidence of everything, right? Like, for me, I can tell by the sound of your voice, Sue, and the sound of Reverend's voice. I can also tell by how sincere Craig was being, that he had a real experience, and he's never talked about an experience like that, which that was kind of intense. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
No, That was a good story. Really good story.
So then that should tell us all that this is at the very least worth looking into if you're curious about it. Now, there was a comment in the chat room that I found interesting by QB, who says that, I think I would be more welcoming to a female form. Or now, do they come in different sexes, male and female, like we do?
The Ponte do. Yes, PETA is the one exception to the rule. He comes across, while he's male, he comes across more in the middle of the spectrum, almost like gender neutral. And I don't know why. And we've never asked. We've never asked those really private questions of them. But we do see the male end and the female end of the spectrum in the Ponte. It's not always as easy to tell at first glance until you get used to examining faces and body structure. But the vibe, the communication definitely comes across as either male or female very clearly. Yes.
Wow. So she could say that, okay, I want to have an experience, but is there any way that I can have an experience with, a female Ponte? Would they?
You can request.
Okay.
Yeah. Just ask. On any mission, what they tell us is almost none of them will go out on missions solo. There's usually at least 2, and a skippership complement holds comfortably 6. Mm-hmm. Okay, Ponte. And so is it possible that you can have a pilot who stays with the craft and 5 team members who come visit you? Yeah. Sure. And so people who report contact with more than one individual, well, that's very common. But if you would like a visitation, when you follow the protocol in Telepathy 101 primer and practice your hello, my name is, beginning telepathic interaction, and practice sending out that ping, you can say, I would love for you to come visit. I would be very comfortable with the female gender of your culture coming to visit me more than the male, if that's all right. And just explain your reasons why. They're people, they'll listen. Again, they're not trying to cause you fear. And if meaning an all-female crew comes to interact with you, makes that happen easier, I don't see why that's an unreasonable request at all. Why not? I don't know of anybody else who's made that request. And if you have success, let us know.
Gotcha. I've got an email here that I've been holding on to. It's not long, but just bear with me here and we'll see if we can help. Now, this person's name is Laura, and that's all I'm going to reveal, but they said, my topic of interest with the Sandia wisdom is very meaningful for me and for those of us that live in the Sandia Mountains. Could you please ask and inquire, are those living near the Manzano Mountain and Sandia Crest or Edgewood being exposed to dangers such as radiation, underground emissions of negative energies, causing apocalyptic dreams and visions, unfriendly races doing unkind deeds, etc., etc.? If so, can you please tell me as much as possible regarding ways that we can protect ourselves or nurture and safeguard our homes and families? She does mention here that something about Jeffrey Weinstein's Zorro Ranch is near. So I think she's kind of worried about something. But she says, I've listened to many here who speak of invisible powers and have experienced it myself, as well as a strong sensation coming up from underground. All this has been occurring for many decades. Naturally, there's rumors of the Dulce stuff and the horrific experiments upon humanity come to mind. But what is the real truth of things living nearby these mountains? And if whatever your answer is, can you reassure us with news of how to proceed with goodwill and an open heart? So I think something's bothering her about the mountains and the underground stuff and wants to know anything about it and how to approach it if it is real.
That's an extensive email. Let's see if we can dissect it one piece at a time. I can tell you that Otter and I live in the Albuquerque area and probably are 10 miles or so as the crow flies from where she's speaking about.
It's about 6.5, 7 miles.
6.5, 7? Okay. So we are across from the Sandia Mountain. And south of the Sandia Mountain begins the northern end of the Manzano Mountains. That northern end of the Manzanos is where Sandia National Labs entrance is, along with Kirtland Air Force Base and the Albuquerque Airport.
Regulatory Commission.
All right. So there's a lot of things in the Manzano Mountains that are constructed by us, by Earth humans.
A lot of scientific stuff.
There's a lot of scientific stuff that goes on, and we're pretty aware of reports either from retirees or the general public or contractors that whatever is under the Manzano Mountains goes deep. And we're talking
bedrock,
hundreds of feet deep, 50 stories maybe.
30, 40 stories.
Okay, so you can imagine the extensive tunnels that since those facilities have been at those locations that they've had time to construct. We don't know the details of that. What they're doing, we don't know the details of. We don't know what kind of energy is being emitted through experimentation, because all of that is private and top secret. So is it possible that something in that mountain chain is what we Earth humans have created through experimentation that could be causing negative effects? I don't have the answers to that. What we can tell you is between the Sandia Mountain and the Manzano Mountains, the old tunnel system, the ancient tunnel system that was pre-existing, that the Ponte essentially upcycled and retrofitted to become the Sandia Mountain Information Station, is separate and distinct from whatever tunneling system has been created by Earth humans in this area. The old, ancient, existing tunnel system that was already here had a collapse between the Sandia Mountain and the Manzano Mountains. We do know that much. My suspicion, and I don't have any confirmation, is that somebody back in the 40s or earlier found part of that ancient tunnel system within the Manzano Mountains and thus became a location for a facility for reasons that we don't know. That's my guess. I don't have confirmation of that. We do have reports from other people who have been in the military or who are retirees who are coming out now and talking about that. But the Ponte specifically have requested us to defer to the topic of what they know of what goes on within those facilities. They know they're approaching official first contact, and they're not trying to out anybody's project or step on any military or secret project toes and upset an apple cart. What I can tell you from the Ponte side is that they control what goes on within their facility, including vibration-wise, very carefully. Okay? And so would they be emitting a vibration that is negative to us?
Not that I'm aware.
Highly unlikely. It would take a malfunction. Okay? Would the Ponte purposefully insert nightmares into people?
Mm-mm.
No, because their protocol is cause no fear. So that would not be their way of doing things. That said, if the Ponte wish to give us a message that they think that we will perceive as negative, like some of the scary big earth changes coming up that seem apocalyptic. Excuse my pronunciation here. I'm getting tired.
Yeah, it was hard for me too.
When I think about the images that come to the Ponte through the telepathic connection as they talk about the changes that our planet is going through and going to go through, you would consider those images apocalyptic. They consider them factual data. And so they're trying to give people a heads up who are able to perceive and remember and process. Okay. So I don't think if someone in that household is having dreams that involve huge environmental changes or big changes to the world would be happening because they're trying to scare anyone, not from the Ponte's end. Do we know of other star nations working within and underneath the surface of New Mexico? Yes, there are a lot of star nations here. And so can we vouch for everyone's actions? No, of course not. All we can do is translate for the Ponte. Could it be something environmental causing it? Like the, what's the new Wi-Fi coming out that's
the 5G.
Above 5G? The 5G?
It is 5G.
Well, 5G and above. There's another one, a newer one that they're proposing too that's even higher than that. But do those transmissions affect our brain chemistry? Yes, they do. Can it be attributed to that at all? I don't have the answer to that because I don't know what the signal strength is in your area. You can download apps and measure it.
Yeah, and two, I would say, and just this is my opinion on this, because I've talked about stuff like this quite a bit on the air, is there are, if you sit back and think about all of the horrible things and projects going on, I mean, there's realities to it, but for God's sakes, don't dwell on it. You know, don't do that to your mind, because it'll take you to a dark place. It's not that we don't need to do anything about it, but don't dwell on it, because I've seen people go into full-fledged anxiety and stuff when they think about these types of things, because there's a lot of good in the world too, you know.
A lot of people who have their telepathic skill set opening up start to receive information and they don't know the source.
I got you.
And it gets confusing. And the information is extreme and detailed right down to the time on the clock on the wall and then the lint on the carpet. But they don't know who it came from and they don't know if they can trust it.
Makes sense.
And that's frustrating to beginners, and I completely understand that.
Ask who it is.
And so we say, ask questions back. Get into that same kind of feel you had in your body and in your head. That same kind of relaxation, if that's where you were in bed. That same kind of receptivity,
right.
Spacey state, no brainer, I'm about ready to nod off state. And go back and revisit receiving the initial information and see if there's any way that you can get a vibe, anything at all about the sender. And then send back along that same thought, I'd like to know who you are. Could you please tell me? My name is so-and-so. I got your message. It was a little upsetting, but I got your message. I'd like to ask you some more questions and see what you get back. You don't have anything to lose and everything to gain by posing the question.
Right. And speaking of which, we got a caller on the line who's been very, very patient. Thank you so much for waiting. I think I know who we're speaking with. Is this Queen or QB? Are you on the line with us? All right. Do you have a question for Sue and Reverend White Otter?
I had a question for the Ponte. It's kind of a little bit out of topic, but it's something that you have mentioned about one of them being like gender neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, like a lot of us know here in the U.S. and all over the world, you know, like there's a lot of people that are gender neutral or transgender and et cetera, you know, different sexes. And I was just wondering if where they're from, if like they have that same kind of if there's people like that where they're from, you know, because I know a lot of people here like don't take that so lightly, and they get really offended when they hear like, oh, you know, there's so many genders, blah blah. People are identifying themselves as this and that. And, you know, I want to know, like, you know, if they have that same issue, or if they ever had that same issue, like from.
If I ask the Ponte about genders within their culture, the concept that comes back is historic as well as modern day. The historic answer was there were times within the Ponte history where the culture's health was threatened and the ability to have children compromised, and female gender became very, very important to carry on the species, the race. And so women became something to be protected to continue that on until the technology got to the point where even without a physical body, they can create a womb environment to bring children into being, is how they kind of phrase it, taking a fertilized egg and bringing a child forth. And by the way, the imagery that comes with that is even fascinating, because they talk about houses of caring for those to be born as if they are sacred places and protected beyond anything else in their culture. Very, very, very important and special to them.
Yeah.
When I think and ask them about the gender status, gender neutral is certainly existing within the culture and accepted now, modern day, as much as any other variation on the gender theme, I guess, is the best translation. Because like our culture, you have from birth people who gravitate toward being very masculine, or gravitate toward being very feminine, or gravitate to the middle because that's the most innately comfortable place for them to be. And the Ponte also tell us that who you love is who you love.
Well, that's cool.
The other unusual part of the telepathic sending that includes the concept of genders, because it leads into the concept of preferred mate.
And I know earlier you'd mentioned that it wasn't, you know, it was something. So you must have just now asked him that, right? Because earlier you were like, I don't really get into that, you know.
Yeah, no, we'd never asked him before.
I think that would be something too. Like, and I, you know, we don't get into that a lot here on this show either, but maybe it's something that we're trying to work out here as well. You know, we don't really know, like we talk about evolution a lot, but we don't really know what's going on in evolution. Like, we don't really know what we're evolving to. We just know we're evolving to something bigger and better all the time, just like everything else is in nature. So just like anything, it gets confused. I'm sure it gets confusing to the past, right? But I don't
everybody,
know.
But everybody, no matter where you're from, wants to be accepted for who they are inside.
Yeah.
No matter if that's ultra masculine, ultra feminine, or somewhere in the middle. All of you, whether you're Earth human or from somewhere else, all of you want to be accepted for who you are. And not challenged for something that you didn't necessarily have control over. Whether that's your skin color or your gender, you want to be accepted for you. And they're no different than that. They've kind of figured that formula out a little bit better than we have. We're still kind of works in progress as far as accepting people for who they are and who they want to be.
Couple million years old.
Oh, yeah. 16 million years is what they tell us that they have been exploring this galaxy. That's a heck of a long time. There's a lot of information from a lot of places and a lot of wisdom because of a lot of life experience.
I know the call dropped on you there, Queen. Sorry about that. Now, did that answer your question? Did you get all that?
I got most of it, and very beautifully answered, so that's a 5.
Well, because we had a technological failure, do you have any other questions while we have you for Sue or Reverend while you're here?
I don't know how many questions I can ask, but I have so many questions, but I don't know if it's okay if I can ask 2 more questions.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so, have they ever traveled in time? That's my first question. And if I were to want to come in contact with them, would they rather prefer nighttime or daytime? Because I know she mentioned that they're very sensitive to light.
Good question.
All right, so we'll answer the latter question first. Their preference, most of their missions, we see them leave here about 5 p.m. and come back by 5 a.m. So somewhere in that 12-hour span, our time. And I don't know the area code or which time zone you're calling from. But that would be the typical nocturnal mission parameters. All right. And, yeah, nighttime is easier on their eyes. And most often you are in a receptive alpha theta state, a tired state, a daydreamy state, in between sleep state, more at night. And so their ability to interact with you consciously and is a little bit easier because of your receptivity. So that would be that part of it. What was the first part of the question?
If they time travel.
Yeah. They know of time travel. They choose not to do it. They leave it to what they call the experts. There are star nations who do time travel. Apparently there are rules, laws, and those that police things, so to speak. The Ponte say when you start meddling with time streams, it can get messy. That's the best translation I can give you. Will they observe time streams without attempting to alter? Yes. They consider that a form of entertainment, if you can understand that. It's like reading a mystery novel and having various endings that you can choose to read and apply to the story. And so do they observe various time streams? Apparently, yes, and enjoy it along with researching it and being entertained by it simultaneously, if that makes sense. We've never asked them really about that in depth either, except we knew that they, as a culture, choose to not meddle and travel in time.
But they're traveling through portals. Please tell me they're traveling through portals.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. They create
There's
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
method of folding time and space that allows them to travel between galaxies at beyond light speed.
Yeah,
way beyond light speed.
Yeah, what they describe is choosing a destination and planting, for lack of a better analogy, a place that their ship gets attracted to, almost like rolling a ball down a hill to a point at the bottom. And so it's a slide rather than a propulsion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
When you travel locally from point A to point B within the atmosphere, there's different things than if you're out in deep space going from one star system to the next. But because there's different environmental factors involved out in deep space that you have to account for. But the whole discussion with them, while they avoid technology most of the time, the imagery around it has been fascinating to track and try and understand. And Otter and I aren't physicists, so we end up having to put it in layman's terms. Love to talk to some physicists about the images we have, but haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, to be honest.
That's really cool. Because that's what I imagine. That's my perfect encounter. The alien comes through a portal and says, "Hey, what's up, Roop? How are you?"
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, do you have a spare set of underwear close by?
and sorry, but I will tell you, sir, that you just put yourself into the category of 50% of the on-air radio shows who flippantly say on air, they can come visit me.
Oh, yeah.
Get a visit within a week to 10 days. No joke.
If they come through, if they come through a portal, and no, I'll take anything I can get. Doesn't matter.
Set out chocolate.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. And thank you so much for calling back, even though the call dropped, Queen. I really appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. Good night, guys.
You have a good night, too.
Night. Thanks for calling in.
And I do keep a fresh change of underwear on me, Rev. I'm a man. I know. I've learned that. I learned that early in life. We all do as men. Always keep a fresh pair handy. You never know.
Cast iron underwear, you're going for a ride, my friend.
Well, listen, if I could, because we only got a few minutes left here, I would like to ask my question to them, and then we'll give out your contact info and how everybody can get on doing this. My question is, they're here with us now, they're talking to us now. Do they know, are we eventually going to learn how to do what they do, as far as travel the way they travel and do the things that they can do? Are we as a human race going to be able to do that? Or is there any type of agenda for us to be able to do the things that they're capable of?
All right. The honest answer is they nudge and help scientists. They have in the past, they did with Tesla, and they do in the present with scientists all over the planet when they see them heading in the right direction and they want to, right, they want to get them to that next baby step. So do they observe and already help speed that up a little bit? Yes, that's one part of that. Do they know that we will get to the place where we can travel between stars and visit other star systems that may be habitable worlds? Yes.
Awesome.
Because of our help from star nations and a little bit of reverse engineering and a little bit of experimentation, the combination has resulted in enough research here that we know that we already have a presence outside of Earth's atmosphere from our own Earth human craft. Which brings us to the next point of how do you know if it's a Ponte craft or not, or if it's one of ours? If it's something that's constructed here on Earth by one of us, no matter which power you're talking about who might have that ability, you're going to see a craft that has seams and rivets and external stuff on it, okay, panels. You're going to see evidence of constructed craft. Like if you examined an aircraft real close, you could see the seams. You could see where things were welded together. If it's a Ponte craft, there are no seams because it's extruded through a multidimensional phasic process, and it comes out all in one piece. Their craft are either pure white or pure silver with no adornment. The skipper ships are approximately 30-ish feet in diameter and look like about the size of a small plane that could maybe hold 4 to 6 people. They do have craft that are oval in shape. They do have very, very large craft that are cylinder in shape. Any of those craft can be pure white or pure silver. Usually you do not see windows or doors. Again, it looks like it's all one seamless extruded piece. So they're putting out, this is how you know it's us, on purpose. Craig, when he called in, described the plasma field around the craft. And we've heard reports of amber colored to reddish amber to orange to almost a yellow, white, bright white.
Blue, white.
Okay, yeah. And we have also had reports of the observing of people who watch them create that opening portal, if you will, to slide from point A to point B and get where they're trying to go. And sometimes that doorway looks two-dimensional. Sometimes there's a vortex vibe feel around it. There is an energy change sensation that you perceive within your body. So all of that can happen in context with witnessing a craft either coming or going. Are they silent? You don't hear a thing. Not a thing. Can they create external lights on the outside surface of the craft at will? Yes. Can they blink it like you would see in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the end when the ship comes down? Yes, they can do that. Can they make that ship perceive to you like anything they want it to look like? Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And earlier in the show, you heard Otter make a random comment about it looking like a chicken.
Yeah, I remember
He meant that because early on, he and Radar were going back and forth about something called the screaming chicken. And the image that came out was of an angry-looking rooster that looked like it had its mouth and beak open and screaming, and he wanted that on the front edge of the skipper ship to look like a screaming chicken going through the sky. You can't make this stuff up. And that was why Otter made that reference, because they can make the outside of the craft look like what they want you to see, whether that's a World War II fighter plane or a screaming chicken.
That's really cool.
It's hilarious, but it's real. And we've had reports of people who had them pick them up and give them a ride and portray the ship like it was a taxi cab.
Well, just a real quick question. Have you guys been on the ships?
Before I even came to New Mexico, woke up on board ship following a group of Earth humans who were following one of our Ponte friends across the circular center of a rather large skipper ship that was much larger than 30 feet in diameter. And I recognized that I was following a Ponte. I recognized and woke up in the middle of the room. I stopped. And the rest of the Earth humans following this Ponte went around the corner and out of sight, and I stood there in the middle of the room. It was backlit with red.
Wow.
There were other Ponte in the room. And I stood there and put my hands on my hips and said, would somebody please tell me what the heck is going on? I mean, that was almost the exact words out of my mouth.
Well, that is awesome. I know I've kept you guys up so late. I'm kind of proud of it, actually. But thank you guys so much.
Only for you, Joe. Only for you.
File senior abuse charges.
Oh, Josh.
Before we give out your credentials, I want everybody to understand this contact, and I learned this from you guys, okay? We talked about the close encounters of the fifth kind, being a close encounter of the fifth kind, but did you guys know, speaking of which, that this was what Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a consultant for the U.S. Air Force, developed that's known as the Hynek skill, what many people refer to as the close encounter skills. Close encounters 1 through 5, all explained in this book, Inviting ET, which is at officialfirstcontact.com. Please tell everybody with the couple of minutes we have here left, how they could find you, follow you, and keep up with everything.
There is a Sandia Mountain Ponte crew fan page on Facebook, and you can befriend me or join the group, and you'll be able to interact with Otter and I and the crew that way. Oftentimes the latest sketches that they've asked us to do get posted there. You can do at Sandia Wisdom or look up Sandia the ET on Twitter. You can go to officialfirstcontact.com and download all kinds of free information, see what they look like, read about what they've said, and you can search the archives of all of the tweets up to date on any topic you want to. So if you want to learn about their home world of Ponte, if you want to learn bits and pieces of their language and how they pronounce things, if you want to understand what they do in their spare time, you can search any and all of that in the Twitter archives, and they're very open about it. They're trying to do essentially a cultural exchange right now, and they love it when we try back.
Well, I think this is really, really cool and very special. And for all of you guys out there that are like me and you've always wanted to talk to an alien, and when I say alien, we're being specific here, the Ponte, you've always wanted to experience this in your life, I think Sue and the Reverend White Otter have given us a way in. And if you do this for me, my listeners, please let me know as well as let Sue and them know over on Twitter and Facebook and whatever you do. And thank you again, guys, so much for staying up late with us on Lighting the Void. You've become an official late nighter, by the way, by doing this. So thank you so much.
Brandon, you're welcome, Joe.
It's been a pleasure. All right, guys, been a pleasure. We got to roll out of here. The Secret Teachings is up next. Don't forget this show is produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted without written permission, and music was by Chronoke, Space Station, Kevin MacLeod. All the old music from the public domain. Tomorrow night, the one and only Ryan Gable will be on here with us live to discuss Discerning the Truth. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stupid.
Please help us with the answer. Please drink from both cups and tell us which one makes you smaller.